Hello, nerds, geeks, and all variants in between. I'm Tony Diana, and this is of Nerds and Geeks, pop culture from a certain point of view. Today, I'll be talking to Stephanie McKinney, co-creator of the comic book series The Turned. In The Turned, we are based 10,000 years into the future, where humans have left Earth 1 and relocated to other worlds, accidentally bringing the plague of zombies known as The Turned with us. Each culture, each world has to incorporate them into everyday life. Throughout the series, we get to travel to these planets with our main female character, Megan, and our pirate crew. Megan has been frozen in cryostat for 10,000 years and is just now waking up in episode 1. Why was she still frozen? What happened? Why? And how is she going to navigate the life that she is now thrust into? Let's check it out.
Hello, I'm here with Stephanie McKinney. She's the co-creator of the comic book series The Turned and its universe. She has been traveling to many cons across the U.S., captivating us with her comic fandom of The Turned. How you doing, Stephanie?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. And thank you for being on Nerds and Geeks. I'm sure our fans will appreciate your interview today.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to dive into it and get started.
Absolutely. Before we go any further, the one thing I have to preface this with, I don't want to confuse anybody, but I met her at Fan Expo Boston just recently, and the thing that really got me excited about her comic book and the way she was presenting it, but that she was presenting it as well with tea and coffee that were themed to her comic book. More on that later. Just had to put that out because I thought that was the best feature of your promotional series.
Thank you. Yep, we will definitely spill the tea later about how that came to be and why I did what I do.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the comic book biz?
Yeah, so I've always been a nerd, a geek from heart. I think my first movie was Enterprise in 1996. So it was right from the get-go. Everything, Star Trek, Star Wars, sci-fi, fantasy is up my alley. I really, it's been a part of my family forever. Every summer we would binge watch Voyager. We would watch Stargate Atlantis, Stargate. So it is a very family-based, family-orientated thing that we enjoy doing together. So since then, my dad, my brother, and I have had an idea of rolling for about 6 years, and we finally had the means and the ways to get it on paper. So last year we were able to print episode 1 and get our 6-year idea out of our head and onto tangible paper. And that's how we started rolling. Was every time we would probably get together, we would talk about it, build out the characters, build out the universe, build out the world. And then we sat down and we finally published our first one.
That's fantastic. So let me get this straight. You do this with your family?
Yes, it is a family-orientated business, from roasting the coffee and the beans and tea bags to the comic itself, to the
characters. Your father and your brother. Is that correct? So who would you say is, without hurting anyone's feelings, who would you say was the progenitor of this idea? Who had the genesis of this idea?
I think the genesis was my dad's idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like working with your family trying to produce this? Like, I assumed was let me ask you this first. Was the printing of the first comic a recent thing, or has that been out for a little bit, or?
It's almost a 2-year.
2 years.
Pretty recent in comic book world. I mean, DC and Marvel has been forever long, so it's a relatively new comic.
Okay, and how many issues have you published so far?
So right now we are on episode 4, and we are working on 5 and 6 simultaneously to get those out into the hands of the fans.
That's fantastic. Give me a little, just give our audience a little bit of insight into what it's like working with your father and your brother. I mean, aside from maybe sibling rivalry or father knows best, I mean, what's the work environment like?
It's a family, you know, you have your ups and your downs, and someone wants it a certain way, but at the end of the day, we're all in it to get the book and the series out there. So it's nice. And also you can't ghost us because we'll see you at the next family event. So it's very nice to have that family bond in your co-creators.
That is true. There is no escaping your coworkers when you see them virtually every day. Is that right?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Good grief. What so do you get a lot of reaction from other family members or other friends about, oh yeah, by the way, my dad and my brother, yeah, we cooked up a comic book, you know. There's some kind of,
when we first started talking about it, again, it was an idea. And then we finally said, hey guys, we turned that idea and we are printing it, and everyone gets involved. My mom gets involved. My sister's our editor. My other sister helps with the coffee roasting and the tea. It's a very family orientated comic book series.
Okay, so who does the writing? Who does the artwork?
So we have an outsourced artwork, and we like changing it up because we like to have different perspectives of our world. It's not just one way. We have different styles, and I'll show you a little bit more of that later. So we have a illustrator that we're pretty set on, and then my dad, me, and my brother, we write it, and my sister edits it, and we go from there.
Okay, so I got to ask, before we get to the comic book and the actual story, who came up with the idea of taking the coffee and the tea and theming them to the characters?
That was me. That was me. Yeah. I was drinking coffee and tea, as we do, and at all hours of the night, writing it and getting all
Okay.
the layout and figuring out how the characters need to be. And it was when I looked down at my cup and I was like, wouldn't this be amazing if you could taste the world that we go to, or a certain character had a certain flavor that you hear or you feel but you don't taste. It's that sensation that kind of separates reading a book. You get the feelings, you get the emotion, but it's immersing yourself in the story and the characters. And we are going to a lot of different we're going to like a couple different dynasty periods. We're going to have a medieval planet come back, so we're going to have a casino planet. So wouldn't that be amazing to taste all these flavors through the comic book?
So the turn, the comic you can taste,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, the comic you can taste. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Are you making a zombie blend at all?
we have a zombie blend. It's our decaf blend because it won't wake you up out of zombie mode.
Perfect. So now you can tell all your fans, like, okay, remember, guys, every time you read a panel where a zombie takes a chump, you take a swig and you'll know what that guy's tasting.
Exactly. And we are going to have highlight bags, like a Christmas bag, like a death mocha with zombies on it. But most of the coffee is characters or worlds that we've gone to. But the teas are our Easter eggs of where we're going and what zombie character we're going to see.
Very creative. I like that. Now, do you cross promote any of the, or even Easter eggly, put some of the coffee and teas into the comics? Just kind of like cross promote them into the world as well. It's like, we're here on Zanzibar and the Queen Alicia drinks only Hormorgan tea.
Yes, there will be hints and Easter eggs and coffee beans in the other.
You need it, Stephanie. You need it. I mean, it's just calling for it, That's just great. I'm still not over the coffee and tea thing. That's just phenomenal. But to move on, though, to talk about the comic itself, what I read the little, on your webpage, I read the flip book that has the pirates finding Megan for the first time. And as I understand it, Megan is in a cryo chamber that she's been in for 10,000 years. And she wakes up to a world where there's no more Earth. Earth has been overrun by zombies. They try to escape by going to different worlds, but they accidentally, I think, bring the plague with them to other worlds. And now each world has to contend with that plague, as well as them trying to deal with it in their everyday lives and being like, oh, gee, I don't know how that happened, or
Yeah, exactly.
that sort of thing. But even from the write-up you gave me that I said in the beginning, it seems like there's actually more of a mystery in there. Like, I think like Megan waking up 10,000 years in that cryo chamber is like no accident. Is that fair? Or
Yes,
like spoiling something?
fair. I mean, if you read the first one, all of the zombies are in a specific area. So you're wondering why, what happened, and why is it only Megan? And what makes her unique that she's able to survive not only 10,000 years, but 10,000 years where the Turned have been roaming into the ship.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't know if you'll address it, but I guess my next question would be too, is like, what kind of ship did they build that would sustain energy and last for 10,000 years to ensure this girl's survival, right? Like, so there's got to be some kind of like tech behind that or something, yeah?
Oh yeah, yes. As you can see in the first couple episodes, our tech is very 10,000 years. But what happened in the beginning? You're right. How is that ship being able to sustain itself? And that you are trying to pull my leg. You're trying to get some more information out of me. So good one. But it is in there, and it will be in there. And it's
I'm trying to remember. Actually, if you're a fan of the old Star Trek series, The Space Seed, when they rescue Khan out of the Botany Bay, I think he's been marooned in there for like 250 years, I think. And he was like well preserved, but everyone else had died, so he was the only survivor. And now you're talking about 10,000 years. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, you're wondering, did she maybe siphon all the life out of the other pods? What made her so special? How was she able to sustain it? How was the ship able to? I mean, the ship is in floating dead space. It's in uncharted territory. We haven't
Right.
seen anything. So how is she still surviving? Where is she pulling her source from?
Exactly. If I were to kind of fanboy this theory,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying anything, Megan. I mean, Stephanie hasn't told me anything. I'm just fanboying here. But it's almost like, in my mind, reading it, I'd be like, did the creators of this vessel intentionally create this ship so it would last so long that this specific human being would wake up at this specific time in order to do something of value or do something of destruction? I don't know. I'm really curious to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that as a comic book reader myself, I think that'd be my first immediate thought. I hope that was the thought you wanted your reader to have.
It was. That's why we cut it off
To
where
get
we
intrigued by Megan. It's like, okay, whoa. She the MacGuffin? What's going on?
yeah. That's why we cut it off at the end, where it opens. But you also
Right.
have to remember that maybe Megan's not the only one because the Captain and Zion beamed off that other cryo. So what's going on with that one?
Right. I would have gotten that in my third read through, I promise you.
Yeah,
I would've.
it's a
I
subtle
would've.
thing because you're more focused on Charles being eaten, and you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to save him? And they're like, nope, we're going to the other cryopod because they're pirates, they're mercenaries, and one life is less valuable than the values.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for all comic book readers, but I don't know if you do this when you read a comic. When you read a comic book, you're usually kind of like reading, you're absorbing the plot, looking at the imagery, and you're not really looking at subtext first. It's like the second or third time you go back, it's like, okay, that panel was cool, but now I got to pay attention to what happened. So it takes you a couple of reads to really dig into the deep. Tell me a little bit about the pirates who find her. What's their story?
So our story behind the pirates, the mercenaries, the crew that I call them, and they're based off of a coffee called the Crew, is they're kind of like your Voltron characters. They have their own story, they have their own characteristics and their own qualities and values. But as a team, they're cohesive. As a team, they're able to get things done and pillage the many planets and the many galaxies that we go to. But then we're also going to dive into the background of a lot of them and figure out their past and what made them be on the path they are now. And then how Megan is going to tweak and pull on some of their strings to make them better characters.
Gotcha. So you a sort of dramatic thing with these characters' backstory. Some of them may be traumatic, some of them may be others, but Megan may be able to help relate to them, or somebody else like, I went through the same thing, and they kind of bond over it, so the audience could feel the same way and love them as much as maybe you probably love them writing them, or you know what I mean, creating them.
There will be stories that you resonate with, and there will be stories that are out of this world because we are out of this world. But there's going to be an underlining theme to a lot of them that people will be able to have heartstrings attached to them.
Okay, so a slight curveball question. Since you're doing this sort of space opera by planet hopping and dealing with the pirate crew, and you have Megan, but then you're also dealing with a zombie threat, you couldn't really very well call it just straight up science fiction or straight up horror stuff. Do you have a specific genre name that you came up with, or something you guys kind of played with? Like, this is
every time that I've talked and given the people the spiel of what the Turned is, I like to say like a sci-fi fantasy meets horror in a futuristic setting.
Okay.
Because it's not really done. I mean, we have zombies. Don't get me wrong. We have zombies. We have space travel. We have science fantasy, but we're combining all three. So I say a sci-fi fantasy meets horror, because we do have, of course, the zombies.
Of course. And some of the pictures you send that I'll put up here, I see you posing with some of your fandom. Even I don't know if you sent it to me or if I saw it online. You saw some people who were dressed as zombies holding your comic book.
Yes. Every time I try, because it has a niche, as every brand, every consumer product has a niche, and my
Absolutely.
niche are the people that want to dress up as zombies, are the people that want to get out of this world and all of its problems and day to day and go somewhere else and be someone else and see something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next, slight curveball question. Do you have a name for your fans?
I like to say I turn my fans into family. I call them the Turn Fam.
Turn fam. I like that. Mark that, copyright that, Stephanie. Boom, done.
TM pending. Yeah.
Yeah, TM pending. And also, too, just because I'm obsessed, I'm just, viewers, I'm going to be putting links down below to where you can read the comic book. You can look at it. You can also buy their teas and their coffees, and always support little indie artists forever and ever. But they'll all be downstairs and down below. But if you have any extra questions for Steph, though, leave them in the comment section. I'll send them forward to her and put the replies in the comment sections. Okay, so what do you have planned for the future of the Turned? Is it just going to be like staying with the coffee and the comics and stuff, or do you guys have like 5-year goals, or are you just kind of coasting as it goes?
I mean, we have 5-year visions. I have like a vision board. I have future things that I want to do to also branch off of the tea and the coffee. Like I said, it's been 6 years since we've manifested and grow and cultivated and nourish this idea. So every comic book is an episode, and we have probably about 8 episodes in a book and 6 book worth of ideas. So 48 episodes ready to go and ready to just print, ready to go.
All right, so would it be fair to call them almost like seasons?
Yeah, I guess
Like
one
6
book would be
seasons
a
worth of story? So,
yes, 6 seasons, yeah.
So at the 6 seasons, is that the end of the story, or is there more to come, or is that just like we'll see when we get there?
For us, there's always more that we can do. I think the fans after 6 seasons are going to want more. And even in the 4 episodes that we have, every time we do a new batch of print, we add to the story. We add more to what's going on. So if you look back at our original episode 2, it's this one with the back, but the people that have the newer version have something called the glimpse, and the glimpse is a sub comic book that's going to fill in that 10,000 year gap all the way up to episode 1.
That story, there you go. That's what fans like.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's great that you guys have thought it that much through 10,000 years, that you can actually create the connective tissue to go from where it started, how it started, to where we are, and here's why we're here.
Yeah, I think planning it, and I call it like our crazy murder wall, because we have all these different strings on how these characters.
Oh, you got a yarn board. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it all ties together. There are things from episode 1 that you're gonna maybe see in the future. I mean, we're not a Brandon Sanders team, but we're a Brandon Sanders like wannabe team where we have every universe tie in, and every universe has different Easter eggs in between. So it's definitely a woven tapestry that we're doing. So
Okay, and I hate to keep pushing the envelope, but when you say things like, even in your intro, it's like creator of the Turn and its universe, and you keep talking about universe things, is that to imply in the future that there'll be spin-off comics, maybe of these characters or somebody else that's involved in the universe but not necessarily connected to these guys?
yeah, I think there's gonna be spin-off characters. If they don't die, or if we don't kill them off, then
Spoilers, yeah.
yeah, spoilers. So yeah, it's very intricate, and we're going to have character spin-offs. We're going to have character background episodes, shorts. We are ready to go. We are the Turned is rolling through them.
That's great. I mean, if it goes anywhere, and I hope it does go anywhere, as much as your enthusiasm and passion sounds, I mean, 5 years, it sounds like we could be seeing novels as well as comic books tie-ins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years in animated series and
No,
movie.
thank you,
I know I'm going way ahead of myself, but people love zombies. They don't. Zombies rarely fail, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a wave that you have to ride, and I think hopefully we're in the wave, rolling through it and being able to catch the next one. So I'm hoping we have so much we could do in our comic. We terraform planets, so we're not limited to anything because our technology. We're gonna have like a dragon planet. We're gonna have a medieval planet. We're gonna have many different things. So we're not limited to anything.
You're really genre matching, really, because sci-fi allows you that platform to go to different planets. Like, oh, well, they happen to use magic here, but it's really science,
Yeah.
It's sort of
Yeah.
the Star Trek chestnut, as I call it.
Oh, yeah.
They're using magic. It's really allows us on the computer.
Yeah, there's gonna be a couple like science technology words thrown around, and you just
Aeon gone rogue.
gotta roll with it.
Are there major themes or franchises that you guys have individually watched or experienced that have a direct influence on the turn? Anything specific, or is it just sort of like everything kind of in a salad bowl?
I would say, like I said, kind of like Voltron, a little bit of Star Trek, Star Wars, but nothing directly. We are trying to be new and different, but nothing like. I mean, I think the first episode says "Beam me up," and it's funny. I'll tell one Easter egg. You'll get one little hidden nugget from me.
Mark the time, guys. Mark the time.
Yeah. Don't copy and paste me. But in episode 1, on our first ever print, we had bean me up, like a coffee bean, but then we changed it back to be grammatically correct, but it was an indication that we are doing coffee because the comic episode 1 came first, and then we did the coffee. So the people that have episode 1, the first edition, have bean me up, and I'm sure they're looking at it like, oh, they misspelled it, but we didn't. We intended on doing coffee beans, and that was our little nugget in the book.
Oh, so it's a collector's item issue there, actually, technically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bag it, CC grade it, you're good.
Yeah, I've signed a lot, so I'm hoping one day the people that bought my $5 comic can go out there and be like, wow, this is actually now worth something, and my signature's on it. Some of them, my dad and my brother's signatures on it. So I'm hoping. I mean, honestly, it's the small things that I think would be successful. Like being on this podcast, on this YouTube channel is successful to me because that means someone's interested enough to take their time out of the day, like you, Tony, and meet with me and talk to me about this fandom that I'm creating, that we're creating. So it's the small things that make this success.
And I agree with you because this channel was actually born out of a small thing too. Because aside from the panels that I do, I wanted to give my friends who are creatives and people like you who are creatives a platform that they can talk about your stuff and share with the world. Because as an artist myself, I often want a platform to brag about my stuff and just like get the word out. It's like, hey, I do this, enjoy it. So it's my honor to give people like you a platform to express what you love so much. That's what fandom's all about. That's what this channel's all about.
Exactly, and I love that. I'm very glad that this is my first one, and it's something that is so meaningful. So, yeah.
Live long and prosper. I'm honored. I appreciate that. Okay. Any final thoughts that you'd like to put on this? Although, actually, I'm going to correct that. I actually have one other question I'd like to ask that just came to my head. Have you ever had any specific reaction going to all the? Because you've been to many cons. I've seen on your page you've been to Philadelphia, Boston, blah blah blah. I keep seeing it. Like you're on the road. It's like this is the Stephanie tour of the turn. Keep up, people, or else.
Yeah.
But, have you had any visceral, really great reaction from any of the fans that come to your booth and said, "Oh my God, Stephanie, I saw this," or "Oh my God, the turn, I read this," or "I saw you at Boston. Oh my God, you're here and I tasted your coffee," or anything like that? Any like awesome experience like that?
Oh, it's every con there's something different, and the first one, it was the simple things. It was I remembered someone's name. I was like, "Hey, Alex." They didn't buy anything at first, but I did talk to them and I told them everything. And then the next day, you always come back. And if you ever been to a con and you come back, but you don't want to buy that person's stuff, so you kind of like awkwardly walk by, I was like, "Oh, hey, Alex, how's your day?" And they came back. That person came back and talked to me. And that was like, that person said like, "Hey, that was very meaningful that you remembered my name." And it was something so small but simple. And it was what made that day. It was like, even if we don't sell anything, it was the connections that I made. It wasn't about the transactions. It was about talking to people and hearing from them. I had a whole 30-minute conversation about someone who had a similar idea as, space zombies and in the future. And he just told me about it for 30 minutes. And I enjoyed that time immensely, just talking to someone about it. And there's a lot of times that, you get teared up because it's the connections that we have. It's the person-to-person interaction. It's not about, oh, let me check my square and see how much I made. That was meaningful. I hope that person remembers. I'm going to remember. I hope they remember. And someone came by and did a fan art and sat there, and I didn't know what they were doing. They asked for a chair, and I was like, yeah, I'm not sitting. Here's a chair. And they sat there and drew Megan in their own style, in their own way. And I was like, oh my, that person took their time out of their day to be meaningful. It was, I can't even words.
That's worth the price of admission right there, Stephanie.
Yeah.
That's a huge compliment.
It was a huge compliment.
And just the mere fact, and I've talked about this on my channel before, but just the mere fact that you make those personal connections with Alex. Hi, Alex. Hope you're watching. But just the fact that you make those connections with Alex, that's what separates good creators from quick. Let's call them quick creators. Creators who are there like checking their square, doing other stuff. You make the personal events big. You make a memory. People remember you.
Oh yeah.
I remembered you too. Because when I went to your booth and we talked, you made eye contact with me, which is at a con. You go to enough cons, these creators. A lot of them are just like, hey, they're just drawing and they don't pay attention. That's the problem with indie comics too, in my opinion. Because I've done an indie comic, so I know. But it's making those personal connections, because that engages them. They want to talk to you. You talk to them, and you make a connection. And that was a great story of that.
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of them, and each con, like I said, is different. And I traveled with a group called Fan Expo, so a lot of people go to those as well. And I had this one fan, Christine, who messages me and likes everything that I post, and it means a lot. And it means a lot that it meant a lot to someone. And those moments where someone reads your comic on a Friday and comes back and goes, you did what? You killed someone in episode 1? Are you kidding me? I need number 2. And people come back and they get number 2. And I'm like, it's so heartfelt. And I'm very glad that I did the year of cons, because I made these amazing, amazing connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on The Turned?
If you haven't bought it, buy it, because we are going, and we are going to take everyone on a journey that you haven't seen before.
And the links are below, so you have no excuse, fandom.
Yeah. And don't forget the coffee and the tea. I've had people come back and say they brewed it that morning, and it is the best they had. One lady was telling me that she doesn't like black coffee and tried it black and was like, this is so smooth. I don't even want to put any of my cream and sugar in it. And that, I was like, oh my gosh, that means a lot, because I am new to roasting. So I finally perfected it where people like it, and the comic people are coming back too. So it's been an incredible journey, and I hope to keep it going.
That's true. Well, I wish you all the success in the world, you and your entire family. But, at the end of the day, I think what the story really has been about is just the amazing way that you, your brother, and your father, and a lot of part of your family can come together to create something in one voice. And that's just a wonderful story into itself, to be honest with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Tony. And thank you so much for having me on my platform, and I hope to be back.
Absolutely. I'd love to have your father and brother on sometime.
Yeah, have a little
kind of do like a turn 2.
I like that. Let's do it.
Let's make that happen.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Tony.
I hope you've enjoyed the interview with Stephanie, and I hope you come next time for our panel. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future videos. In the meantime, you can go to our online store and get some cool swag with artwork done by yours truly. Until next time, don't get turned into a zombie. Drink some coffee or some tea.